The Indonesian regime, or Indonesia as such, very, very important. It's one of the largest countries in the world, strategically located, and in particular during the Cold War and in post-Vietnam, not only because of Indonesia at the time was very rich in oil and gas reserves, but I would say more important than that was it is strategic location in Southeast Asia. But at the same time, what were Indonesia's weaknesses? It was ruled by a very corrupt regime, authoritarian, undemocratic, extremely corrupt, that gradually, slowly was corroding itself, rotten inside. And as time went by, the regime was even more corrupt. Way back in 95, I gave an interview to CNN, to a program called Diplomatic License by Richard Roth. Even though back then I was not even well known, I was already having some contacts with media. I was known to some of the media, but it was before the Nobel Peace Prize. And in that interview that was aired in mid-May 95, I said the following: within 2 to 3 years, the Suharto regime will collapse under the weight of corruption, mismanagement, and increasing political illegitimacy. When that comes, that moment comes, it will be easier to negotiate a solution to the Timor conflict. Well, let me repeat, that was in May 95. In May 98, the Suharto regime fell. Almost exactly 2 to 3 years, as I had said in that interview. Because by then it was obvious that while the World Bank and IMF and the United States, the Europeans, all were still looking at Indonesia with rosy or tinted glasses, well, those of us who knew better were anticipating that that regime cannot go on pretending. Of course, we had the economic financial crisis that happened. It started in Thailand in July 97. By December 97, it had affected most of Southeast Asia. Hardly any country in Southeast Asia escaped. Even Korea suffered severely. In Korea, we had the fall of the dictatorship, the election of Kim Dae-jun, who was fighting for democracy for over 30 years. And in the streets of Jakarta, elsewhere in Indonesia, students went to the streets as a result of the economic financial crisis. Timor-Leste was by then too much of a burden for Indonesia. So that was Indonesia's weaknesses: corrupt, mismanaged, the regime was living on falsehoods, and sooner or later, any regime like that will crumble.